Hello, I'm Dave Lee Travis, and welcome to this week's Top 10 Auto Show. Each week, we look at the top 10 vehicles from the different automotive categories as voted for by our panel of experts, including editors from the top UK's motoring magazines. Now this week, we're taking a look at the top 10 super minis of 2002. Where last week's city cars would turn their noses up at long journeys and complain about runs on the motorway, the Super Minis are almost the best of both worlds, having the compact size to make them practical in town, combined with refinement and extra size and power to cope with the greater demands of all-round driving. So, first off this week at number 10, all the way from Italy, it's the Fiat Punto. So often these days, unless you're spending a good deal of cash, your car's styling would be at the end of its features list. But the Fiat Punto is every bit a stylish, attractive, cutting-edge design, which is one of the main reasons it gets a place in our top 10. And those fashionable Italian designers haven't stopped at the exterior, as the cabin is also very well laid out and finished off, with a nice use of quality materials, and you can really see that Fiat have made an effort here. So it's all bellissimo so far, but the Punto does have a major fly in its Italian ointment, and that's its ride. Whilst it turns well and has little body roll, the ride is extremely harsh, and even on the smallest of bumps, the Punto begins to feel uncomfortable, despite the good driving position. And it's a real shame, as with a better ride, the Punto would have been so much higher in our top 10. So let's check out those all-important manufacturer statistics. And from the manufacturer's figures to those of our expert panel, as we see how they've scored the car in the top 10 auto show categories. At number 10 then, with a total percentage of 60, the Fiat Punto. In at number 9, it's Papa's little favourite, the Renault Clio. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Just 6 or 7 years ago, everyone would have voted this Gallic charmer number 1. And it can't be denied that Clio set the benchmark for other manufacturers to beat. The problem is, most of them have. Across this range, the ride and handling isn't bad, but the cheaper end cars are a little wallowy and numb, with fairly uninvolved steering, and you have to shell out for the 172 Renault Sport or the V6 to get a truly exciting drive. On the inside of Le Clio, it isn't exactly groundbreaking stuff, but it is well put together and feels very durable. And the equipment levels across the range are excellent, with every model getting driver, passenger and side airbags, power steering, ABS, electric windows, pause for a glass of vin rouge, remote central locking and a decent stereo. Now, like the majority of smaller cars, they tend to show up most of their flaws out on the open road. We've already said that the Clio's ride is a little vague, but there's also a large amount of wind noise on the motorway, and it's generally not as refined as some of its competition, which is why it only makes number 9. So, let's see just how our expert panel have marked the Clio. At number 9 then, with a total percentage of 65, the Renault Clio. In 8th place this year is the Volkswagen Polo. Now, the Polo may well have come in 8th in our chart, but you people out there seem to love Volkswagen's little baby. Though we say little, throughout its life the Polo has steadily been putting on weight, to the point where it's now as big as the first version of the Golf, Polo's big brother. The obvious benefit of a bigger Polo means that there is more room inside with good head and legroom for both front and rear passengers. The boot is also excellent in this class, and the split-fold seats make it even more versatile. And what about that interior? Well, quality-wise it's second to none, with every button and switch feeling extremely solid and worthy of a luxury car, let alone a Super Mini. Now, we all know that saying, you get what you pay for. Well, that superb VW build quality and refinement comes at a price. The basic Polo will set you back $8,000, with the top spec diesel coming in at a far from mini $14,000. Ouch! Well, while you comfort your wallet, here's the manufacturer's statistics for the VW Polo. Simple fact, if it had been cheaper, the Polo would have been much higher in the top 10. Here's how our expert panel have marked the little VW. So with an overall percentage of 66, the VW Polo takes 8th place. In at number 7 is the second French Super Mini in today's chart, the Peugeot 206. It's the son of an extremely successful father, and that's probably how the 206 feels when it's constantly compared to the 205, the car which was awesome in its day and even better in people's memories. Now, like the Renault Clio, the 206 has a great range of engines, from a 1.1 petrol right up to 2-litre petrol and diesel offerings, all of which are smooth and efficient, but as you'd expect, the small units need plenty of revs to make them work well out of town. It's on the inside, though, where the 206 suffers. It has a pretty poor driving position, and the cabin, though well equipped, is dearly lacking in flair and quality, especially when you look at many of the cars in this sector. It's also lacking in space for rear passengers, though the boot is fairly roomy. It's interesting to note that in last year's top 10 hatchbacks, the 206 came second, which clearly shows how this sector has evolved over the last 12 months. Now, for all you techies, here are the specifications for the 206 range. We know it's made 7th place, but let's see how our expert panel have marked the 206 in the top 10 auto show categories. With a total percentage of 67, the Peugeot 206. In at number 6 in this year's top 10 Super Minis, the curvy Citroen C3. There's no doubt about it, Citroen have really made an effort with the looks of the C3 to create a car that's genuinely different, yet with clear Citroen identity. At first glance, you could be mistaken for thinking the C3 is actually a mini MPV with its high-sided, high-curving roof. Indeed, the driving position is more akin to an MPV than a Super Mini, being very upright. Sadly, though, the MPV comparisons end when it comes to interior space. Yes, there's bags of head and leg room up front, but rear space is limited and the boot isn't as big as the exterior look suggests. Space aside, though, the interior is a good effort with plenty of attention to detail as to how the instruments and switches are laid out and put together. When it comes to the C3's engine range, there's only actually a choice of 3, 2 petrols and a diesel, but you can be sure that all 3 will perform exceptionally well, based on Citroen's past history. Here's the manufacturer's facts and figures on the C3. Here's how our panel of experts scored the C3. The Citroen C3 then takes 6th place with a total of 68%. Just making it into the top 5 this year is the new Ford Fiesta. Now, if it was just down to how these super minis handle, the Fiesta would be in top spot, as it is and has been for many years the best handling car in its class. Like many manufacturers, Ford have opted for a family look for their new Fiesta, as from many angles it looks like a Focus. Whilst this is a safe option to go for, you can't help thinking it's a bit of a cop-out, especially when compared to the continental style of the C3 and the Punto. Engine-wise, there's a choice of 3 petrol units and a diesel. For us, the most impressive was the diesel, its turbocharger making it feel quite lively, and though it's only a 1.4, it's got enough oomph for overtaking on the motorway and returning a staggering 65 miles to the gallon. You won't get that out of your Ferrari Enzo. So, while I try to justify why I still haven't got the Ferrari, I always promise myself, here's the manufacturer's stats for you on the Fiesta. So, let's see now how the expert panel have scored the little Ford. In 5th place then, with a total percentage of 69, the Ford Fiesta. Well, that's it for part 1 of this week's Top 10 Auto Show. Do join us after the break when we will reveal the top 4 super minis of 2002. Hello and welcome back to this year's Top 10 Auto Show, where this week we're looking at super minis. In 4th place is the Skoda Fabia. It should no longer be a surprise that the Skoda Fabia should beat a host of major manufacturers to make it into the top 4 after all. It was a previous winner of the What Car of the Year award, and it's based on the VW Polo, neither bad things to have on your CV. One of the most surprising aspects of the Fabia is with its overall finish and build quality. You would expect it'd be reasonable coming from a VW-owned company, but it's actually very impressive and wouldn't look out of place on cars costing much more than the Fabia's entry-level £8,000. You also get ABS on all of the basic models, which is unusual in this class of car. Skoda have also done a great job of making the Fabia spacious, and you can genuinely get 5 adults in here, no problem. There's also a pretty good boot, making the Skoda one of the most practical super minis on the market. For what is a great overall car though, it's such a shame that people still seem to have an image problem with that Skoda name, and it's through its image that the Fabia loses most of its points. In 4th place then, with a total score of 70%, the Skoda Fabia. Into the top 3, and in 3rd place is the versatile Toyota Yaris. When the Yaris was launched, it was a real breakthrough in super mini design, so the fact that it's still in the top 3 after several years is even greater testament to how good it is. From a practicality standpoint, it's one of the class leaders with the high roof design, giving huge amounts of space for drivers and passengers, and there's loads of small storage areas for your bits and pieces. Powering the Yaris range is a choice of 3 petrol engines and a diesel. With only one person in the car, the 1 litres are fine, but they do start to protest when pushed with a full load. The 1.3 is probably the best all-rounder, as it's a good balance between power and economy. But for those who want to really save the pennies, the diesel obviously has the best economy, though it can get noisy. So, all in all, an impressive piece of kit. Let's have a look at how our expert panel have marked the Yaris. In third place then, with a total score of 71%, the Toyota Yaris. On to second place then, and it was a close call, but the Mini has been pipped into second place. Though it's no longer a tiny roller skate with a roof, BMW have worked wonders to recreate the character and charm of the original Mini with the added performance, safety and handling that modern motoring demands. No doubt about it, the new Mini is stylish, it's purposeful, it already looks like a classic, but above all it's cheeky and you can't help but smile when one drives past. Cleverly, BMW have been careful to establish the Mini as a standalone brand, and you'd be hard-pushed to find a BMW logo anywhere on the car, or under the bonnet for that matter, but there is one huge giveaway, and that's with the build quality. It's absolutely superb, with every switch and panel feeling durable and expensive. The same goes for the dash layout, which is a work of art. So why, oh why, I hear you cry, doesn't the Mini win overall? Well, despite its size, there's a terrible lack of space in the car. It's fine for driver and passenger in the front, but the back seat space is almost unusable, unless you're prepared to wrap your legs around your neck. Anyway, while I go and try and see if my legs will still fit round my head, here's the manufacturer's statistics for the Mini range. We know it's made it to second place, but let's now see how the Men & Motors expert panel have scored the Mini in the 5 top 10 auto show categories. In second place then, with a total percentage of 72, the Mini. Well, it's nearly time to reveal the top Super Mini of 2002, but before we let the cat out of the bag, here's a quick rundown of the top 9 places. In 10th place, the Punto from Fiat. In at number 9 is Renault's Clio. At number 8 this year is the VW Polo. In at number 7, the Peugeot 206. Taking 6th spot this year is the curvy Citroen C3. Just making the top 5 for 2002, the Ford Fiesta. 4th place goes to the Polo-based Skoda Fabia. Making the top 3 this year is the Toyota Yaris. And in 2nd place, just pipping the Yaris, the new Mini. So, the top 10 auto Super Mini of 2002 is the Honda Jazz. Although the Mini is one of the most stylish and best handling Super Minis out there, well, they aren't the most important criteria for this class of car. Most important is a good balance of performance and practicality to really win out, and it's this that really makes the Jazz a winner here. Now, whilst the ride of the Jazz is a little on the firm side, it's still a lovely car to drive and feels like a much bigger car than it actually is. And so on to practicality, and it's here that the Jazz really steals the show. As a genuine 5-seater, it does the job and still retains a reasonable boot. However, if you really want to carry a shed full of stuff, the rear seats will fold down and slide under the front seats, giving you completely flat load space. This feature really is the biggest feather in the Jazz's cap, as it takes what is already a great performing practical Super Mini and makes it almost as capacious as some small minivans. As always, here's a quick look at the statistics for the Honda Jazz. Here's a look of how our panel of experts have scored the Jazz for image and style, practicality, performance, ride and handling, and overall value for money. With a total score of 74%, this year's winner of the Top 10 Super Mini of 2002 goes to the Honda Jazz.
Hi, I'm Gary Shoefield, Director of Programming at Granada Men & Motors. This is Ken Keir, Managing Director of Honda. We're here at the Motor Show, and my purpose here today is to present an award to Ken for the Jazz, which has won the Best Super Mini. And Ken, this is the award.
Thank you very much, Gary. The Jazz now has won many awards, but this one in the UK, we know Men & Motors. This is special to us. Thanks, Gary.
Well, that's it for this week. I'm Dave Lee Travis. Do be sure to join me next week when we'll be looking at the top 10 small cars of 2002.